Hello and welcome back to the Argyle CIO Leadership Forum, Vision, Strategy, Trends. My name is Michael with Argyle. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. And now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Matt Davis, Principal Solutions Consultant with Adobe. We're excited to have Matt for his thought leadership presentation titled Document Process Excellence for Technology Leaders. Matt, thank you so much for being here. We're excited to have you. Welcome, and over to you.
Thanks, Michael. So as you can tell on my accent, I'm coming to you from Adelaide in Australia, which is sort of pertinent today because people these days are working in different environments. They're in the office, they're actually traveling, or they're working from home. So how do you keep business moving? How do you do all that these days and keep everything flowing in this day, in this new hybrid, new normal? So today we're going to take you through Microsoft and Adobe's solution and show you how you can work document processes inside our environments. So first up, let's move over here to the Microsoft partnership. So Microsoft and Adobe have had a partnership for nearly 5 years now, and that's really based around 3 key components. The first one here is workplace productivity. That's getting things done in communicating in the tools that you have today. In the old days, it used to be things like Outlook, but now we're seeing a huge uptake in terms of using Microsoft Teams. And today I'm going to show you a little bit of a workflow that'll take you through that Teams experience. Plus, also too, these days organizations need automation. Need automation for things like compliance, gathering documents into the right area, bringing them into archive, into disaster recovery, communicating with stakeholders in real time when things happen, when events change, and keeping your team updated no matter where they're working from the office, on the road, or working from home. And lastly, you want to have a connected experience, that seamless experience that is across all your touch points. So if I'm moving from Teams into SharePoint, SharePoint into another line of business system, moving over to Adobe Acrobat or other tools, I want that consistent experience. So wherever I'm working, the tools I need come to me. So today we're going to look at some of the integrations between Microsoft and Adobe and show how these can really benefit your business. As we said before, create efficiencies, mitigate risk, and do a lot of document workflows that work seamlessly. Now, the integrations we have are predicated on 3 main products today, because we're talking about Adobe's Document Cloud. Those 3 products are Adobe Acrobat, the world leader in PDF editing. Also, too, we're looking at Adobe Acrobat Sign, more importantly, Adobe Acrobat Sign for Enterprise, our enterprise version. And finally, I'm going to introduce you into our Adobe Document Services. And these are our APIs that allow automation. And at the end of this presentation, you'll understand the value that these APIs can bring you in your environment. Okay, just starting with the APIs very, very quickly and a high-level overview. This will make more sense shortly. So our APIs allow you to do document functions. The first one here is PDF services. So this allows you to do multiple tasks automatically to documents. So you might want to replace page 7 on 4,500 personalized documents. Now you can. We're going to take a look at the document generation API because these days we need to create personalized document content at scale. So we're going to show you how to do this using Microsoft Word and our API. We also have the Extract API for those businesses that need to pull information from an image or a scan or a PDF, and then put that into a line of business system. Now, we also have other tools. We also have the PDF Embed API. That's if I want to host an API on my web, or host a PDF, I should say, on my website, and then connect that with analytics. So if someone's dwelling on page 7 for a banking offer, for argument's sake, then we can invoke a chatbot or response or send them an SMS with relevant content. So an intelligent way there of interacting with PDFs. And then finally, we have an API for Adobe Sign. So we talk about the last mile of digital signatures. When something's been signed, is that the end of the document? No. What happens then is someone needs to action that particular contract. They have to give the customer a product or a service, notify someone to do some work, whatever it takes. That's not the end of the journey. And we're going to show you how you can notify people in real time across the board. Okay, so the ecosystem with Microsoft and Adobe is really showcasing a variety of tools, and they fit where they go into the Microsoft portfolio. As you can see here, there's a touch point in every part of Microsoft for every part of Adobe, whether it be our Creative Cloud, whether it be our Document Cloud, whether it be our Experience Cloud, or other tools in play. We have a use case. Now, today I'm going to take you for a little bit of a walk through a day in the life. We're going to look at an end-to-end digital workflow here. We're going to talk about creation. So when we think about our organization, our employees create documents. They could come from an Office document. 40% of documents in the Microsoft environment are PDFs, or they might have paper that needs to be digitized. And also, we're going to look at the document generation to generate documents on the fly. However, people also use line of business systems in the Microsoft world, that is SharePoint and Dynamics, but it might have other tools like Salesforce, SAP SuccessFactors, Workday, Apttus, Ariba, lots of line of business systems out there. Once we create, then it's time to collaborate. We need to send that around the organization to gather information, to garner people's comments, to actually bring a document to life. So we're going to look at ways today how Acrobat can play a role inside that environment. More specifically today, looking at Teams. Now, you can also collaborate using a line of business system. So I'm using a CRM, a HR system, ITS systems, etc. We can also collaborate there as well. Now, once you've collaborated, then comes time to approve something. So I'm going to have a sneak peek today at Microsoft approvals, and we're going to look at Adobe Sign because you really need a legally binding contract at the end, something that stands up in a court of law across the world. And once that's done, as we mentioned before, the journey's not complete. So through automation, we can now use the APIs in conjunction with Microsoft Power Platform to automate document processes further. So pick a document up, place it into a repository, notify stakeholders, use the metadata and other lines of business systems, mitigate risk, make it more efficient, and make it more predictable in this hybrid workflow. Okay, so let's get started today. So my journey today is going to take us on a document journey from creation. So we're going to take some source data here. We're going to create content at scale. Personalized content at scale is something organizations are looking for today, or most are. Then what we're going to do is show how people can collaborate. That document can come to be internally approved. Then we require a legally binding document that's been signed by all parties. It stacks up in a court of law, and also too, it's fully digitized to provide that unique customer experience. And then lastly, we're going to look at the automation piece. So let's get started. First one here is we need to create a document. And here we're going to use the document generation API. This API is part of our document services. And so this API allows us to generate a document. The way that works is we've got a data source and we've got some automation to do in Power Automate in conjunction with a Word template. Before we go into that one, everything starts with a conversation. So here I am in Teams, working away in my Teams environment. What I've got here, pardon me, is a notification from my manager. Manager says here, Megan, the spot bonuses and spot bonus shares have been drafted for nominated employees. Okay, great. People are getting some bonuses and they're getting some shares. You need to generate the documents to circulate those around. Well, never fear, Adobe is here. Let's do that let's do some automation. So Megan starts off with a data source. Now her data source starts off in Excel, or this could be JSON, it could be a Google Sheet, number of data sources. It doesn't really matter. So here we can see we've got 3 employees. We've got John, Mary, and Matt. We can see here they've got their email addresses, their titles, etc., the companies which they work for. And as we see, we've got a bonus shares here. So John and Mary have got a nice bonus of $2,000 and $4,000, and Matt's got $1,000. However, we've only got bonus shares for the first 2 employees, John and Mary, and Matt doesn't have any shares. So one consideration you might want to have for Matt is to remove any reference to the fact he has 0 shares, because he might join the Great Resignation and move somewhere else. So let's look at that. Now, what we're going to do now is going to cross over to Word, because we need to set this document up for the very, very first time. So coming into Microsoft Word, over here, I have a document. Now, under my tabs, I have a document generation add-in for Word. And that enables me to go through and bring some tags through. So I brought through some data from that particular Excel form, and don't worry, you don't have to do this every time. This will be set up once to be repeated hundreds of times if necessary. What I do in here is you can see I've got a series of tags, and that tags to that data in the Excel file. We had a column called first name, and guess what? Over here, I probably need a last name. So let's go to last name, insert the text. So very, very easy for your garden variety knowledge workers to tag these documents up to use in automation. Next part here is we need to make sure that Matt doesn't get embarrassed by the fact he has 0 shares. So moving over to the advanced tab here, I've got some conditional logic. And that logic basically says, if bonus shares equals 0, remove it from here to the end of section. So the whole paragraph is removed. We can also add images, text and tables, do numerical calculations, etc. Lots of things you can do in this point. And then finally, this document needs to be signed. So what we can do now is we can put Adobe Sign tags in here as well. So here we've got a date range that's going to come into it to nominate the date of the signature. We can see down here, here's a signature block for my manager to sign, and then for the employee to acknowledge they accept this spot bonus. And also too, employee first names, employee last names, etc. Now, once this is set up, we don't want to ever do this again. So what we want to do is we want to automate this. So coming back to my Microsoft environment, for my particular team, I've got everything parked away inside of OneDrive. So inside of OneDrive, there's that Excel file. And here is my Word file, my Word template. Now we're going to go into the bonnet a little bit here because Power Automate is a very, very powerful tool to automate business processes. So here what I want to do is I want to generate a document. So let's have a look under the covers, which many of you may not have seen before. So here I'm going to come into my document flows. 1 second there. Let's edit that. Let's have a look at a real life flow. Now here I've used a manual trigger just to trigger it off for demo purposes. Here I'm going to gather my Excel table from OneDrive. I'm going to pick up my template also from OneDrive, and we're going to send that up to the document generation API. That's Adobe's API. It's our little service. There's the value of the Excel. It goes in, and then we're going to create a file. This is important. So once we create the file, I'd like to place it in this position in SharePoint. So over here, we navigate down to my letters folder. And I want to rename the file. Employee first name, underscore, employee last name. And here I put a UTC in here because we may have 3 John Smiths. So we don't want the files overriding each other. We want them to be unique. And then finally, the output's going to go through. So let's actually watch this in motion. So let's use a trigger we did before. Is what I did about yesterday in a demonstration. And let's test that out. Let's see a flow working live in motion. So here it comes. It goes through, picks up the Excel file, picks up the Word file, sends it up to the API in the cloud. And then in a matter of usually about 18 seconds, we're going to generate 3 business letters or 30 business letters, 300, 3,000, 30,000 personalized letters. Think of this as scale for the way you build your documents. And here we are, we're done. So coming back to OneDrive, if I look into my OneDrive area here, we can see a few seconds ago, there's my documents. And the first one here is for Mary. So as we look at Mary's document, this is ready to go into our signed service. We're also using the Adobe Viewer inside the Microsoft experience, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. So over here, we see Mary's letters being generated. It's all personalized. And you can see here, the tags are ready for Adobe Sign when it comes time to sign this. We can see there's their $4,000 bonus. There's a grant of 2,000 shares. Now let's have a look at Matt's experience. So Matt's experience is a little different. So let's open his one up because remember, he didn't get any bonus shares. So we're going to avoid the embarrassment of Matt finding out he got 0 shares, which could be contentious. And so we're going to look now. And as we can see here, we can see he's got his spot bonus and the paragraph has been removed. Now that we've generated our letters. And so let's look at the first one. So think about your business. How does your business automate document generation today? How do you do this at scale? How do you do this with automation to mitigate risk and to build content that's out there? We can help perhaps. Let's move on to our story because now we've generated, we need to collaborate this. We need to make sure people are happy with the file itself. So as part of our user journey, we're going to return back into Teams. In my teams, you can see here that the spot bonus there, I've generated the letters. So now I need to share it with my team. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move over back into the conversation, and I'm going to bring up the Acrobat add-in into Teams. And what this enables me to do is to attach PDFs into my Teams environment or SharePoint or OneDrive, and then I can then allow that to be collaborated and commented on. So here we can see we can add from OneDrive or Teams and channels, upload from a computer, a variety of sources. And once that's done, I can then put it into the chat, and I can put a little message here. Hello, Miriam and Alex, here is the offer letter for Matt Signer, blah, 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 to request. They can simply open that up from within Teams, or OneDrive, SharePoint, whatever, and view the file itself. Here they can see the file. They can navigate around using thumbnails. If it was long form content, you'd have those structured bookmarks. And in a matter of seconds, what happens is all the commenting will appear, and then we can garner everybody's comments. Now, this is important for one reason, because we're going to capture all this as a auditable document. As we can see in here, you can see we've got some comments coming in from myself on this one, agree with the bonus, this is all approved. And what this becomes is an auditable trail on how a document came to be. So if someone says, why did Matt not get any shares? We can say, well, management decided they weren't going to get any. Here's the comments. Or there's a change been made to the text. You've got a reference, an auditable reference here of how that document came to be. Okay, we've done our approvals and everything's looking pretty good. Next, it comes time to use Microsoft approvals to get this approved internally. Now, it's not legally binding. However, we can use this as a mechanism. So here I'm going to come through back into my Teams environment. As we can see, the team have put this out to approve. You can see here's the offer letter. I've reviewed it. And guess what? I'm actually happy with that. And I'm actually going to approve that internally, notifying all stakeholders that this document can now be sent out for signatures. Now, as we go through this part there, think about how do you work with PDFs today? As mentioned before, 40% of all documents in Outlook and other parts of the Microsoft environment are PDF formats. How do you collaborate those? How do you approve, comment and mark up or redline? We can probably help. Next, let's move along to we need to execute this contract. We need a legally binding document that captures everybody's signatures and has an audit trail. So the next part there is we're going to execute this. But I don't want to go to Adobe Sign, Acrobat Sign there. I want it to come to me where I work. Now, I work in Teams. So coming back for Teams, I can see it's all been approved. I can now move over and use the add-ins inside the Teams. So searching for Adobe, you can see there's a variety of add-ins here to use. I'm going to choose the Adobe Sign add-in here, and we're going to bring up the Sign interface. So the Sign comes to where I need it. I'm working in Dynamics or Salesforce, I'm working in Workday, SAP SuccessFactors, wherever I'm working, it comes to where I want to be, 80 line of business systems out of the box. Now, and here is my little world, or my department's world, or my organization's world. So here what I want to do is request a signature. And we need to make this really easy. So I'm going to sign first as the manager, then the employee is going to sign second. We're going to use a mobile device for that. Their role is going to be a signer. Let's get a message template in here. We're going to be it's going to be an offer letter. There we go. Let's personalize that because personalization these days is key. And we're going to add my file in this kind of place here. I'm going to add it in from my computer and over here. And there's Matt's file ready to go. Looking great. Right, set a completion deadline. Got to have this done by Thursday because payroll cuts off. So let's go for the 27th on here. Looking good. And let's send the document. Now, while I'm sending this, notice we've been working in my Teams environment. We had an initial conversation. We then generated a document. We then collaborated that in Teams. We then approved that in Teams. And now I send it for signature inside the Teams environment. And guess what? It's my turn to sign. It comes back to me in the Teams experience. So I don't have to go anywhere else. So over here, I'm going to click to sign. Now, it already remembers my credentials. However, I could always use a system font. Draw with a mouse style or pen, upload an image of my signature, even use a mobile phone. I'm going to use a drawing and apply. And then I'm going to affirm the intent to sign digitally. One of the 3 I's of international signing law. Now, while I talk about those, let's go to the Manage tab. And the 3 I's are the intent to sign digitally. The integrity of the document is verbatim at time of signing. and the identities have all been verified and all present in a audit trail. So over here on the Manage tab, comes my little world or my team's little world. So let's move over to somewhere in the world needs to sign. I'm in Adelaide, so I can sign from anywhere on the planet. And as you can see here, I'm going to click on this to review and sign. Just needs a modern browser on something. It's all branded up with my company details, etc. I can see everything. And now on a mobile device, whether it be a phone, tablet, whatever, I can come through and sign. In fact, the signing session comes to me, no proprietary software required, just a browser. I'm going to review that and go, great. Oh, fantastic. Oh, awesome. I got a $1,000 pay rise here. I'm so happy. Little do I know, I didn't get any shares. Okay, let's sign that one. Looking good. Let's hit the Finish tab on here, tap to sign, and away we go. And that's as easy as that to sign. And then Matt's job is done. We wait a couple of seconds here, and you might hear some noise. You'll hear some noise there. That's Power Automate doing what Power Automate does really well. Now, Matt's got his final document received, the legally binding document. I'm not going to go into that today, but what's happened now is some automation has happened. Now, before we go there, let's just reflect on that. So we signed that. So how do you use e-signatures today? How do you make it easy for people to send out, if they're permitted, contracts on behalf of your organization? Perhaps we can help. Next one here is we want to automate because we want to mitigate risk. We want to bring, do things in the background, get those efficiencies, get rid of any risk. So here we're going to use the Adobe Sign API. This one here is designed around to take the file, we're going to put it somewhere, notify people, use the metadata. The beauty here is 5 years of partnership with Adobe and Microsoft. We've already pre-built all these low-code, no-code solutions. So there's flows here, and I'm going to use two common ones just to show you an example. So before we do that, let's think about our organization. So we had a source file. We executed that to sign. We then got some automation you're about to see, which is going to store it, notify stakeholders, and we can put the metadata anywhere it needs to go. That's really good for things like privacy and personal IP. But also too, it doesn't matter where we send from with the Adobe Sign service, that same automation is going to pick things up. So if IT, procurement, HR, sales, legal are sending documents, we can gather those and aggregate all those documents using automation, as well as return them back to the line of business system. So let's have a look at this in motion very, very quickly. So moving back to Power Automate over here, one second, I'll move that out of the way. On this one, let's go back into my flows. Now, two quick little flows to look at here. These have been shared with me. First one here is I want to save an agreement back to SharePoint. So just editing that one and deconstructing that is we've got a series here. Now, this is important because when an agreement is successful, I want to do something, but you can actually do this for a number of different areas. So any agreement in my account, this is documents I want to aggregate for the entire business. This could be for compliance, disaster recovery, backup, archive, whatever. Or it's agreements in my group, my departments. That could be sales, HR, legal, or project team A, project team B. Any of my agreements is a C-level that are captured and aggregated in one area. Or a specific agreement that spans multiple departments or multiple geographies or multiple offices. I want to gather all those and bring them into one central location and notify people. Or a custom value. And that was something like a project number, a job number, where all documents from different areas all come together under that job number. So we've got the agreement coming in. I'm going to pick up some data on the way. I'm going to mine something out of the file because I'm going to rename the file. I'm going to rename the file agreement name, agreement ID, signed PDF. I'm going to place it in this SharePoint repository and on the folder structure here of signed documents. And once that's done, I need to email someone to action this in real time. So I'm going to send this off to Megan. She's going to action this and send a product or a service or people out to my customer to give that expert customer service in real time. And we can see here, agreement has been signed. Hello, Megan. So the result of this is in SharePoint, if I come into my signed documents in here, you'll see 4 minutes ago, there's my document collected. Megan's received a mail, as we look into here, saying it's been signed in action with a relative path in SharePoint. Looking good. But that's not all. I need to notify people in Teams as well, because that's part of my team. So that's coming into this part. So in my Teams shared, same thing here. I'm going to do a flow that notifies in Teams. So coming back to my Teams environment, we can see the journey in here. So looking there, we can see the document has been created. My team need to know the moment that document has been created. And then the document has been completed and I've got a notification to the team, contract's been signed. Now, the great part here is you've got a journey. We've got a conversation at the start. We've got a collaboration. We've got an internal approval. We send it out for signature. We know when it's been created. We know when it's been signed. And guess what? We also know there's a copy of that in SharePoint or another line of business system. And we know that Megan's probably already actioned this by the time I read the document. So think of that in terms of the concept there. When you sign your documents, is automation applicable for what you do? Do you mitigate risk, get efficiencies, etc.? We can probably help. And lastly, you might have old paper. So in my journey of my world, I can take all my old documents. I can use the PDF services APIs to create a PDF, OCR the content, make it indexable and searchable, put it into SharePoint, and that means you can find all your old world contracts as well. Now, I'm going to go through that one quickly. I'm going to show that demonstration at a time today. But think about there, do you need to digitize paper or document workflows? We've got lots of automation solutions for you in this environment. And that's my little story today. All documents in one place and they're all searchable in terms of your organization. And that's how create, collaborate, execute, and more importantly, automate story inside of Adobe. And if you think about these solutions and what you just saw today, this quick little snapshot, that's applicable to all departments inside your organization. So think of all the different departments and how you can make things more efficient, especially when we're in the office, working from home, in transit, or a combination of all three. That's it for today. Michael, handing back to you, and let's see if there's any questions on the screen, please.
Matt, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. So let's go to some of the questions that have come through. Okay, our first question is, I assume the Adobe document services are outside of the Adobe CC subscription, or does it complement?
No, they're outside. So they're part of our document cloud. So Creative Cloud's obviously got a collection of services and applications. This one here, there are three parts to Adobe. There's Adobe Acrobat, there's Adobe Acrobat Sign, as you saw this, the enterprise version, and then there's the APIs. And they're all separate parts. So you actually subscribe through transactions to the APIs and to Adobe Sign, and then you can subscribe to buying Acrobat to use at home and work.
Okay, excellent. And is a traditional non-subscription based version of Acrobat available?
You can, yes. It is end of lifing in probably 2025-ish, around about there. Because these days hybrid workflows are becoming more important. So Perpetual doesn't give you all the benefits of collaboration and cloud services and integrations into other lines of business systems. So our Perpetual offerings will be going away eventually.
Okay, excellent. Let's go to our next question. Is the interaction with the platform driven primarily via APIs or generated data sources in these specific defined format? Or are there integrations available with platforms such as Salesforce?
Yeah, there's integrations with Salesforce. So in fact, for Adobe Acrobat Sign, Salesforce gives us our most volume out of all the platforms out there. So in fact, the document generation API you saw for working with Word and the templates, that is also now available in SFTC. So as a new release as about probably 6 months ago.
Excellent.
And to your question too, they are all PDF services. They're also service generated there. So as I'm using the Acrobat functions, as I'm using Adobe Sign as a service, as I'm interacting with the PDFs, they are services provided into the Microsoft platform.
Thank you so much. And we're just about out of time. Do you have any closing thoughts? And are we able to keep up with you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me around. Somewhere on the planet, you can find me.
Excellent. We appreciate it. Matt, thank you. This is a wonderful presentation. We appreciate you being here with us. Thank you, everyone. This is a fantastic thought leadership. Now, this session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Matt, thank you so much.